Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna check my top 10 best supporters in the game. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So before we even start, just remember that this list is my opinion. If you have a different opinion, please let me know in the comments. I am really curious about which supporters you think are great that I do not mention. And, well, even though I say that these supporters that I'm going to show are great, that doesn't mean that you need them. There's like many options in the game. You can do without them. And besides, you will have some of them. And you'll get good value with those, even if you're still missing the others. So, we're going to start with honorary mentions. And the first honorary mention is going to go for Narita Akina. Narita Akina is going to have her honorary mention because in this list we do not see defensive supporters. I mean, due to how the game is designed, yes, damage reduction and HP recovery is important, but the ultimate goal of the game is to eliminate the enemy. And you can do glass cannon strategies, which focus on high amounts of damage and immobilizing the enemy, and you just finish the stage fast. We do not have content which requires sustain, like tons of sustain, a survival mode or something like that. So the value of defensive supporters is diminished. It pales in comparison with other supporters that provide damage increase. So unfortunately, Akina doesn't make it to the list, but she is pretty good because she provides constant HP recovery. It's not just one burst of HP recovery. It's going to be a continuous effect every 20 seconds. Then, another super important supporter that is really good is Assault Yatsumurasaki. Assault Yatsumurasaki is unlimited supporter, so this one is going to be a little bit more difficult to get. She increases HP and continually restores 4% of the missing HP, which is really good. This works on every character. It doesn't have any restrictions, so that's very valuable. And the active is also really good because it's going to give you particles and you're going to be able to spam your weapon active or your ultimates with this. So it is really good. You should have a copy or two. I do have 2 copies of this one. Then the last honorary mention is a tie between all the Invincibility supporters. Those are going to be Yuno, Spica, and Shisui. All of these are going to give you Invincibility. I know there are a couple others who give you Invincibility, but the duration is not the same. Like, these 3 give you the most. And they do not make it into the list because Invincibility has diminished in use due to BR, due to longer battles with high amount of incoming damage. So these supporters are used for burst strategies, and those do not work on newer challenging content. So that's why we don't use them as much. They're still very strong, they're very good. They work on tower, they work on PvP, they work on event and dailies. But on BR, on higher floors of tower, they are not as viable as they used to be. So now let's start with the list. And the first one, number 10, is going to be well, number 10 is going to be Blackbeard Onisaki Kirara. Blackbeard Onisaki Kirara provides a 20 to 40% damage increase to Demon type characters and restores 3% of lost HP every 10 seconds. That's the main reason why she makes it into the list. She's going to give a very big damage increase, and it works for a trait which has a good amount of characters. Like, more than a third of the playable characters are going to be Demon. It's almost half because we have 4 machines, and the rest are either human or demon. So it's a little bit more than, a little bit less than the half, but still a big number of characters. So this supporter is really, really good. Unfortunately, it's limited, and we already have both her reruns, like the original run, the rerun, and now we had the discount rerun, which doesn't come with the banner. So yeah, I hope you have this one because it is really, really good. The next one is gonna be an F2P supporter, and that's going to be Arabella. Arabella gets number 9 on the list, and she is very, very good. Unfortunately, she's a little bit more niche. Kirara gives you damage against all enemies, while Arabella is only going to give you damage against bosses. But to be fair, most of the stages that we want to farm have strong bosses. VR, event stages, tower. So a damage increase against the most annoying enemy, or the strongest enemy, is going to be very useful. And this supporter is F2P, so it's really, really valuable, and probably you have 2 copies. I hope you have the 2 copies, because this supporter already got her rerun. Then, at number 5, we have a tie between 3 supporters. Because those supporters do the same, but for different traits. So, first we have Fuma Amane. Fuma Amane is going to give you a 25%, a 25 to 50% damage increase against machines. Then we also have Mido Haruka. Mido Haruka gives damage reduction 20 to 40% against incoming damage from humans, but it also gives you damage increase against humans 30 to 60%. So yeah, it's higher than a UR supporter damage increase, but you have to have it on the main. That's the difference. Both of these are supporters that you get on the premium gacha. They are always available, and that makes them easy to get, which is very, very good. The last one from the big 3 is going to be Onigumo. Onigumo increases damage dealt to Demo type enemies by 22% to 44%. We are getting the rerun soon, so you're gonna be able to get this one if you didn't. Like, most players didn't get it, only the veterans on day 1 or something like that. So this is a really, really good supporter, and everyone is going to be able to have this one soon enough. Also, the active is not something to dismiss, because it snares the enemies for 6 to 12 seconds. Snare is probably one of the strongest debuffs in the game. Like, there are many strong debuffs, but the ability to immobilize the enemy is really valuable. So yeah, the big 3 get spot number 8. Then, on spot number 7, we have a classic in Misaki. Misaki is another F2P supporter, and we're getting her rerun. So yeah, that's great. What does Misaki have to offer? Well, Misaki increases damage against every enemy on Taima 5 VR from 25 to 50%. That's a really big number. A big number is 40, that's the standard. And if you surpass that, that's a really, really big number. So whenever you see something that gives you more than 40% damage increase, go for it. Trust me. And not only is it good because it gives you damage increase for VR, where we have the most challenging bosses, but it also provides healing for the party, as well as particle recharge, which is really good. This is going to give you a 20% heal and a 40% particle recharge, which equates to 4 particles. It is really, really good. It's almost half your particle bar. So you're going to be able to spam your ultimate and heal yourself. So this is an excellent supporter that you shouldn't miss. Unfortunately, she doesn't go higher into the list because she only specializes on VR. But the fact that she has a number above 40% gives her the 7th spot into the list. Now, for number 6, we have another tie with 2 supporters. First is gonna be Kaworu. Kaworu is an excellent supporter that you can grab at the beginning of the game because she increases critical damage from 24% up to 48%, almost 50%. And it also has a good active that deals damage to all the enemies and stuns them. So you want this supporter with the ticket that they give you at the start of the game. She will increase your damage dramatically, and if you get all the copies, you can do critical builds non-stop. It is great. The other supporter, which shares the 6th spot on the list, is going to be Nano. Nano is kind of similar. She doesn't give as much damage, but she's going to give damage to both sides of the spectrum. And considering that newer supporters specialize on one or the other, this is really valuable. And not only does she has an excellent main effect, she also has a great extra passive. So let's read it. It says, increase damage dealt by 20 to 40% with range attacks and increase critical damage by 20 to 40% with a melee attack. Wait a moment. No, the first one is damage and the second one is critical damage. So you increase the damage from range attacks and you increase the critical damage from melee attacks, which is great. You're gonna get a damage increase on both sides of the spectrum. The second one, the melee damage, has a condition. You have to crit, so this is not as useful on VR, but on VR you would equip this on a ranged attacker. So it is very useful, no matter what build you're doing or what kind of content you're tackling. Also, it has an extra passive if you have it on the main, that reduces damage taken from all enemies by 5 up to 10%. So it is really, really good. Then, on the 5th spot, we have one of the best supporters in the game in Bride Annerose. Bride Annerose is another limited supporter. Unfortunately, like, she wasn't very popular, but people saw the potential soon after. So what does she do? It says, when a critical hit does not occur, critical rate increases by 10%, which stacks. It goes to 20 up to it goes from 10 up to 20%, and it says the effect resets upon a critical hit. So unfortunately, you cannot have this increased critical rate for a while. It's only until you crit, but it's still very useful. Then, the most important effect says increases critical damage of all attacks by 20% up to 40%. Yeah, it is kind of the same as Arabella or Kirara. The condition is that you crit, but this is self-sufficient because it's going to give you more and more chances to crit. On normal content, on event, dailies, even tower, there's a point when you, after enhancing so much your weapons and magatamas and your character stats, that you're going to always crit. So it's a permanent a permanent damage increase, as simple as that. And on VR, this is very good, very, very good, because it allows you to crit, and thus you're able to use the Momochi weapons there to increase your damage dramatically. It is super good. Not only that, but she also has penetration. Penetration is a very important effect. It says increases penetration by 12% against stunned enemies. While the condition is not the easiest thing to fulfill, it is doable. There are strategies which break super armor, and then stunning the enemy is very, very easy. Then, on the number 4 spot we have another Tai, because there are many supporters that share similar effects. And we have, first of all, Susune, Yamato Susune. Yamato Susune is here because even though she gives, similar to Bright Annerose, only a 40% damage increase, her activation condition is extremely easy. You just have to debuff the enemy. Not only that, she's self-sufficient because she inflicts snare onto the enemy. And while snaring, she's also going to heal you. She has a ton of good effects, easy damage increase condition, and it is just one of the best. Unfortunately, we already received 2 reruns for this one. Let's hope that Grimoire does another rerun for Yamato Susune, because yes, maybe you want 3 copies of this. It is just that strong. And next to Yamato Susune, we have her, let's say, counterpart, which is going to be Holy Knight Onisaki Kirara. This was a seasonal supporter given to us not last Christmas, but the Christmas before that one. And this one increases damage dealt to debuff enemies by 20% up to 40%, and restores 4% up to 8% of lost HP every 7 seconds until HP is below 15%. So yes, it has the unfortunate effect that you may stop recovering HP, but the bar is so well, I don't know if I should say low or high, depending on how you interpret that, but it is so difficult that you reach that 15 HP mark, 15% HP mark, that you're always going to have that HP recovery. And just like Susune, she's going to be self-sufficient, because whenever you kill an enemy, you freeze, you make a like a gust of wind or something like that, that is going to freeze the enemies nearby. And freezing is an excellent debuff. Unfortunately, it doesn't last, but not to worry. You can use your partners, or you can use another supporter, because you don't have to have this on the main. And you can use your own skills to debuff the enemy to get the damage increase. Also, the active. A snowflake covers the ground, deals damage to the enemies, and increases the character's speed by 10% for 10 seconds when in the area. A speed increase is valuable, and the duration is not bad. So, yeah, this supporter is just on par with Susune. Like, Susune is a little bit better because you control the snare and the healing, but this one is also very good. Then, at number 3, we have a really strong supporter in the form of New Year Felicia. Obviously, it had to be limited. Why not? Yeah. So, what does New Year Felicia offer? Increases skill damage by 15% up to 30%, and increases assist type characters damage dealt by 13% up to 26%. If you're an assist type character, your skill damage is going to increase by 56% just by having this equipped. That's really big. It is amazing. And even if you're not an assistive character, this is a generic skill damage increase that you can use. It is basically like using Stella, a little bit more restrictive than Stella or Torajiro, but still a good number. Then, not only that, you have an extra passive that says, reduces damage taken from all enemies by 15% up to 30% for 5 seconds when healing effect is active every 15 seconds. So it has a 10-second downtime, yes, but if you have a healer, if you have a regen supporter, or if you have healing skills, even that, you're going to be able to take advantage of this effect. And it's really good. 30% is a big number, you know? Then, the active. The active says, a Kagami Mochi appears for 15 seconds and restores 5% up to 10% of the HP every 3 seconds. Increases damage dealt to all enemies by 10%. So, you heal, You activate your extra passive, and you also get a 10% damage increase. Really, really, really strong. Yes, you want this supporter. It is limited. I think that this has not rerun. I don't remember. But it is one that you definitely want. Even having 2 copies of this wouldn't be a bad idea. But her limited status make that difficult. So, at number 2, we have another tie. Yeah, there's too many ties in this list, but there's too many supporters with similar effects. So, at the first part of this tie, we have Celestial Fox Sora. This was a character release limited supporter. That means that this is not going to have a rerun. It's going to be available on her packs whenever Sora, on the pack whenever Sora receives her renewal. Yes, that's a way to get it. You can also get it with the facility, with the exchange facility. But keep in mind that this supporter is really busted, that maybe you want to buy the pack whenever Sora gets her renewal. So, what does this do? Increases damage of ranged attacks by 15% up to 30%. When hit, remove 1 debuff up to 2 debuffs. I don't know if it's up to 2. Maybe it's up to 5 or 4. I don't remember. Remove 1 buff of an enemy at a 10% chance. So, the buff removal is something that you use on PvP. It is not that viable because it's a 10% chance. You like to use that against, for example, Emily or other multi-hitters. But the important part is that you're getting a 30% damage increase. And you say, well, that's not impressive. That's just 30. Not even what Arabella offered or Blackbeard Kirara. Then why? Well, if you put this support on the main, it gets an extra passive. Increases damage by 5% up to 10% every 10 seconds after the battle starts, and stack up to 5 times. That means that you're gonna get a 50% damage increase just for having this on the main. And then you also get the passive, which is 30%. That's an 80% damage increase to ranged attacks and a 50% damage increase to melee attacks. Yeah, that's a big number. So, not only do we have that kind of effect with Sora, but also with Dark Sun Astaroth. But Dark Sun Astaroth has different conditions and different synergies. So, reduces damage taken from ranged attacks by 15% up to 30%. Damage of suppressive character increases by 15% up to 30%. So there we have again that 30% damage increase. And the extra passive says, increases damage dealt with normal attacks to enemies with debuffs by 25%. That's gonna go up to 50%. And the active deals damage and provides super armor for 5 seconds. Yeah. It is perhaps not as strong as Sora, but it also provides that 80% damage increase. But you don't want to equip these supporters on the same characters, or maybe you do, depending. Astaroth benefits from both of these, but a suppressive character who abuses debuffs and melee attacks is going to benefit more with Astaroth. Basic attacks, not melee attacks, basic attacks. And Sora is going to help out characters which are range attackers. So yeah, both of them are really, really great. So, lastly, of course, we have number 1. You know it, we know it, we all know it. It's the strongest supporter in the game, the one and only, if I can find it, that is the one and only White Feather Asuka. Yes, you know it. While this supporter's main passive might look appealing on the right context, it is not that impressive. Most most of the times you're going to have a damage increase for either machines or suppressive characters of 24%. Sometimes you're gonna match both traits, and that's gonna be a 48% damage increase. Really nice, similar to Kaworu. But what really matters about this supporter is the extra passive. It says, skill attack removes super armor at a 10% chance, immediately restores 3% up to 6% of the lost HP. So the only thing that really matters about this supporter is that this removes super armor immediately. This can be used with characters that have multi-hits, a ton of multi-hits on their skills, and it's going to work wonders. Very quickly, a common character that is used with this is Eleanor. Even though she is not assist or machine, she has a red skill that has a ton of multi-hits in the form of Reflective Raid, and also Acid Rain. Acid Rain pairs well with this supporter. Another character that has gained popularity with this supporter is Phantasma. While Phantasma has a couple skills that have a good amount of multi-hit, the best skill that you can use with White Feather Asuka is actually the green skill, which White Feather Asuka provides just enough value to omit that critical rate increase effect and to go mix, even if Phantasma is not a machine. Or, oh, well, yeah, she is suppressed actually. So she gets a 24% damage increase. So as long as you have multi-hits on your skills, this supporter is going to break the game. You can trivialize a ton of battles just by having this supporter. It is the strongest supporter, like, it is pretty obvious that was the strongest supporters, if you didn't know. But tell me, guys, what do you think about this list? Do you agree with my picks? Do you think there are better? I guess, I am almost sure that there's gonna be people suggesting other strong contenders, which, yes, they didn't make it into the list, but the game is full of supporters that are really worth it. But these are the ones that I appreciate the most and I think are the best. Let me know in the comments which supporters that I didn't mention you think should have make it into the list, which supporters should get out of the list. And that's it for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Bye.